A new study finds more Americans now use cannabis daily than alcohol. Most doctors will tell you less alcohol is a good thing, but some say replacing it with cannabis every day isn't necessarily.
Legalized age for cannabis should be around 33 years old, when people are outside the window of developing schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and a lot of other things. Or most certainly it should be after 26, once the prefrontal cortex is done developing. And people come in and they tell me, hey, cannabis is healthy, right? I can use it. Or people say, hey, cannabis is used for pain. Doesn't mean it's healthy. It means it's being used as a medicine by those people.
Joining me today to discuss is Thomas Lavigne from the Cannabis Counsel law firm. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So we'll get to those health concerns in a minute. But first, recreational cannabis use is now legal in about half of states. Are you surprised at all that it seems to be quickly overtaking alcohol?
I'm not surprised at all, actually. It doesn't have the negative impact that alcohol has. So I'm thankful. 488 people die per day from alcohol. 0 die from cannabis.
Sure. When is too much, though? Because there's moderation of anything, of food, of any kind of habit.
Sure.
And now we're talking about people maybe relying on it, using cannabis every single day. When do you think moderation crosses over into too much?
Sure, absolutely. Like anything, you know, moderation is the key. But I think that as a society, we're capable of doing that. And it's much less dangerous if you do even accidentally go a little overboard, and you learn from your experience and do better the next time. Unfortunately, with alcohol, sometimes that one occasion is all it takes to take your life.
Sure. I mean, critics have been saying for decades at this point that marijuana is a gateway drug. Do you agree with that?
Well, the data has not proven that out.
Okay.
Over decades, longitudinal studies, it just is not the case. And in fact, it's a harm reduction methodology that a lot of people do use to get off hard drugs.
Sure. So overall, do you think this is a positive thing for our culture? Because our culture is very alcohol-based. It has been for a very long time. Celebrations, special events tend to have a lot of alcohol at them. Do you think this is overall a positive?
I think it's positive, but there's still a lot of things in the way. You know, our young people growing up, you want to go out and meet people of the opposite sex. Why are we pushing them to alcohol establishments and bars? And these cannabis consumption, oh, you can't have it in public, and all these restrictions, they treat it like plutonium, you know, when really we should give them the opportunity to have that choice.
There are some legitimate concerns, though. More and more kids, teens, young people using cannabis. The NIH had a study that found more pregnant women are also using cannabis. Do you think this is a natural part of prohibition ending, that there's kind of maybe an overcorrection in some ways, or does something need to be done about those concerns?
I think so, but if you look at the states that have legalized, of course, these licensees card. You have to be 21 to buy. We're driving the local dealers off the corners that sell to anybody and sell more than just cannabis. So it's really a move in the right direction. Teen use has not increased in states that have legalized.
There was some reporting recently that I believe it was out of Canada. More elderly people were ending up in emergency rooms with cannabis poisoning, probably related to edible usage, more potent products than people are used to. What would you say to people who are kind of dabbling or getting into it, but maybe don't know exactly what they're getting into?
That's another nice thing about legalization. The labels indicate the proper dosage, and it also explains that the time before you get the high is not always immediate. So it advises you right on the label to, you know, that it's not going to kick in for 45 minutes. A lot of people make the mistake of taking some, and then after 30 minutes they don't feel anything, and then they take more. Prior to legalization, there were no limits. You never really knew the dosage. So it's really made it a lot easier. And for them to really use that term poisoning is a misnomer. It doesn't kill you if you take too much, for example. Alcohol poisoning is a real thing, but marijuana, it's not poisoning.
Sure. Do you think we need some kind of improved public awareness campaigns? Because you're right, those labels and warnings are there, but people don't seem to be reading them very well.
Right. Well, I think that it's pretty easy to titrate the smoking. people tend to dislike the smoking in favor of the gummy bears, right?
Okay.
But actually, the smoking is less of an impact. You only get so high. You never really get the high that you can experience from medibles. It can be a little bit too much. But again, with the medibles, as long as you just take, that 10 milligrams and don't take more when you don't feel any effect after 30 minutes.
Key.
Yes.
All right, Thomas Lavigne from the Cannabis Counsel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that is it for us today at 7. We'll see you back here for CBS News Detroit at 11. Have a good night.